Hi, this is Cheryl McQueen with Bello's Designs. Halloween is coming soon, and I thought this would be a fun way to use Noof in a Halloween card. I hope you enjoy this tutorial. So let's go ahead and take a look at the supplies that I'll be using today. We will start out with a multifarious Smooth and Supreme cardstock. I have cut this to be 6.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Then we will use a cardstock just to make a little frame, and this is just a basic white one that we have cut to be 6 3/4 inches by 4 3/4 inches. And then for the card base, I just took a piece of cardstock and cut it down to be 10 inches by 7 inches, and then just folded that in half. The stamps that we're going to use today will be Noof, which is the Lavinia LAV 725. We will use the Forest Scene. This one is LAV 524. And then we will use the Lavinia Bats, which is LAV 167. I will be using for the stamping ink my VersaFine Clair Nocturne. And for the inks for doing our colors, will be using Distress Inks, Villainous Potion, Chipped Sapphire, and Black Soot. And then as an option, if you'd like to add just a few little sparkles here and there, I do have the Brilliance Cosmic Copper, and I just thought that would add just a little bit of interest in a few of the places. That, of course, is up to you whether you want to add any of the shimmer or not. To create the mist in the card, I am going to be using the Pan Pastel, and this one is titanium white. And then we will be using just a few blending brushes and some daubers for applying our ink. We will also go ahead, especially for working on putting a little bit of color in Noof. I have got the Sweet Poppy Detail Stencil Brush, and this comes as a set of 3. These are really great for getting in small places. You will also want to have a circle mask to create your moon. They have some great ones on the Bello's Designs website. I happened to, before I joined Bello's, cut out some of my own. So I just have little plastic circles that I use for my moon mask. You will also want to have a scrap piece of paper or the Lavinia masking sheets, because what we're going to do is we only want to have the head for Noof on this particular project. So you'll just want to have a scrap piece of paper that you can cut so that we only get his head. Also, I've got some clouds in here, and I just took a little piece of paper and tore it so that we could create some cloud effect. Let's see. Oh yes, we would like to go ahead and, even though it may not show up a whole bit, I did color in his eyes and his nose. So just a couple of art markers. I just chose pink and green for that. For applying the Pan Pastel, I used a cotton swab. So if you want to have one of those on hand for doing that. I also have my water bottle sprayer here to create just a little bit of a night sky effect there. And then my stamping platform that I use so that if I need to stamp a couple of times in one place, then I've got the stamping platform so I can do that very easily. I have a sticky grid down that helps me to not have to use magnets to hold my cardstock in place. And then you will want to have some kind of either glue or an adhesive tape of some kind to put your card together. All right, so let's get started working on our project. Okay, to start out our project, we're going to start out with our multifarious Smooth and Supreme cardstock. And we are going to take our moon mask and just put that on our upper left-hand corner. I usually just use a little piece of masking tape or something to hold it in place. That way I don't have to worry about there being a whole lot of wiggle going on. So I'll place that down there. And then what we're going to want to do is start out with our Villainous potion and our chip sapphire. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brushes and I'm just going to kind of, I don't want to do a real solid brushing on there. I want it to have a variation of colors. As you can kind of see from my example, I've got some dark spaces and some light places on the purple. So that's what we're going to do. Then I will come back in with a little bit of the chip sapphire and blend that in there as well. So I will probably end up speeding up the video so you don't have to watch the whole process, but that's what we're going to do. So we'll start out with the Villainous potion. So as you probably noticed right there, this is where I just basically didn't fill in, and you can kind of see as I went along how I have darker places and lighter places. And then with the chip sapphire, all I did was just put it in dashes and spaces around. So that just to me gives it a little bit more of that mysterious night look. I'm then going to come back in with my Cosmic Copper in the Brilliance, and basically this is just going to be a few little spotty spots just dashed in here and there just to give it a little bit of a shimmer and a little bit more of that mystical, magical kind of a Halloween look to me. Again, this is an optional technique. You do not have to add the Cosmic Shimmer. Like I said, I just thought it was kind of a cool effect to just give it just a little bit of added punch. So again, I'm not doing this solidly, just kind of dashing it in little places here and there. Just to give just a little bit of interest there. Alright, so now we are ready to go ahead and take our moon mask off. So now we've got this really nice, crisp little moon there. I've got some ink on my hands, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off just so I don't smear it around too much. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back in now with our chip sapphire. And I like to use a, like I said before, like a torn piece of paper. So just get your scrap piece of paper and just kind of tear it. Let's see if I can find one here that might give it an idea if you've never done this. Just take it and just tear it and kind of little randomly hills and valleys, and then that's a piece that you can then use to create your clouds with. I also like to use a dauber when I do that. It just gives me a little bit more control than a brush does. So I'm just going to kind of lay my piece across there and then just flick up across the edge. And this is just going to give us just a little bit of a look like some of the clouds are floating across the skyline there. And do another one here. And maybe some over here on this side. And you can do them as dark or as light as you'd like. I can sometimes just vary it a little bit because the clouds aren't all going to look the same as they move across the skyline there. You don't have to do it solid all the way across either. You can pick and choose just a few spots. Just add a few more down here. And that just kind of then gives us just a little bit more mystery and a little depth to it there. All right, and then we're going to want to take a paper towel and your misting spray bottle and just spritz over the tops of the surface. And for this particular one, I do like to kind of do quite a few. I just think with this particular look that the stars and the cosmic look really adds to it. Of course, some of it will be covered up with the trees and stuff, but this just gives it a little extra oomph to the background. Alright, so let's go ahead and start working on our stamping part. Now, if you like to, I do this sometimes when I've sprayed water. I'll go ahead and get my heat tool out and dry the surface of my card just a little bit so that I'm not having to worry about it being wet and messing with the way my ink might flow and lay on the card. So I'm just going to dry that off just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my stamping platform out. Move a few of these things out of the way so I don't knock them off my desk here. So we will lay our card down on the stamping surface on the platform. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more here. And then what I'm going to do, and I'm probably going to, it might help a little bit to take this little plastic sheet and use it as a guide as to where you want to place your Noof. You could even go ahead and pull out your trees if you wanted to make sure that you were getting a good alignment with how your trees are going to fall. So this is about where I think I want to put my Noof. My Noof, as you can see, has been well loved and well used. May end up having to get me a second one, but anyway. So I'm going to figure out where I want him, and that's about the right placement. And then I'm going to take this piece of scrap paper. And like I said before, I just took a piece of scrap paper and just kind of cut a little rounded edge, because all I want is for his head to be showing. We just want to have his head showing through the trees. So let me get this lined up about where I want it to be. Alright, that looks like that will be pretty good. And I may even just go ahead and lightly tape it down so it doesn't wiggle too much if I end up needing to do a second stamping. And with Noof, you want to make sure that you get a really dark image. I actually have two of my VersaFine Clairs. This one is one that's getting a little bit lighter on the ink, and this is a brand new one. So for Noof, I'm actually going to go ahead and use the new one because I really want that dark, crisp image. And the reason I need to do that is because he needs to show up through the trees after we stamp the trees over on top of him. So I am going to ink up Noof. And then hopefully one stamping will be all we need, but if not, the nice thing about the platform is that I can always go do it a second time and not worry about the placement being off. So I've got Noof, and I make sure it soaks in really well. Yeah, it looks like I need a second stamping there. I do want him to be just a little bit darker than that. So I'll add some more ink. Let's see if we can't get him to be just a little bit darker. Alright, let's see how that works. Okay. And actually, I may actually even do just a little bit more. Like I said, I just want him to really show up through those trees. So quickly do the third one. I think that will give me the darkness that I'm looking for. I thought I would get a much darker image with that brand new ink pad, but there we go. So there's a nice, sharp, dark image of Noof. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and take off that mask, because we don't need that anymore. And now, as you can see, what we've got is just Noof's face. And that's what's going to be showing through our trees. So I'm going to take my first set of trees and just line them up. And I'm going to try and do it so maybe we can see his eyes fairly clearly. Get it marked where it's somewhere close to in between. And then I'm going to take, I actually think I have that the other way around. So there we go. It looks like his eyes will be between the trees. So line that up. And when you stamp this one, what you're going to want to do is either do a second generation or not apply much ink, or like me, I've got this Burst Fine Clair that is one I've been using, so I haven't re-inked it yet, so it's a little bit lighter. So I am just basically going to take that and lightly go across my tree. And again, if it's not as dark as I want, I can always come back and add more ink, but I prefer to do a little bit less ink the first time around to try and get the look that I'm going for. And I'm going to put just a little bit of a piece of paper under here so I don't get ink on my grid there. And then just lightly rub across it, and we'll see what it looks like. That's not dark at all, so I may have to add just a little bit more ink. I'm erring on the side of caution, so I didn't get quite enough ink on that. Alright, let's see what we get with this one. Alright, so as you can see, it's just slightly lighter enough, so enough that we can get his image through. And so now I'm going to go ahead and put in the other two tree sets on either side. Alright, so now I am going to place the bats in. And I've got one that's a little bit larger. I'm going to have him just kind of going across the moon here. And then I've got a smaller grouping that we'll just kind of put here over on this side, and maybe so I can get him just a little higher on over here. Pull those down. Now, if you want to end up putting some kind of Halloween sentiment on, I'm actually probably not going to, but just be sure and leave enough space where you think you might want to put that sentiment. I might decide if I do this one again, how much it might be added by adding a sentiment. So it's whichever your choice is. Alright, we've got our bats there. Let me go ahead and wipe them off quickly and set them aside, and we can go ahead then and pull our card off of the stamping platform. Set that aside. And so now we're going to go ahead and come back in and just add some shadows and the mist and everything. So for doing Noof's face, I'm going to do the black soot. And this is where I'm going to use my small little detail stencil, Sweet Poppy Sweet stencil brush. Because I just want to come in here and darken where Noof is. Make him essentially a black cat, if you will, here. So we'll go in here and just detail him out, and you don't have to do it necessarily in a super duper detailed way. Just adding the black into where Noof is will help to bring him out a little bit through the trees and give him that Halloween cat look. I'm going to do some down here under his chin to give just a little bit more shadowing there. All right. I can put a tiny little bit more around his nose. I don't want to try and cover up his nose because we're getting ready to go ahead and color that in the pink and his eyes in green. So I'm going to take my art markers and just give a little bit of color there. It probably won't show up very well, especially on the video, but it just does add a little bit of something. And some pink on his nose. All right. So after we've colored this in, we can go ahead and add our titanium white pan pastel. Let's see, get out my cotton swab here. And with the pan pastels, you do not really need a whole lot. Let's see if I can get this off without spilling it all over the place, because mine is still really full. And then we're just going to dab in that, and then just kind of just do some mist around here at the base of the trees. And then maybe add just a little bit of mist kind of up in some of the upper portions of the trees. And if you want to put just a dash or two around Noof, you can do that as well. And then I do go ahead and put just a little bit into my sky area. All right, so that looks pretty nice. And then I would like to go back in and add just a little bit more shadowing with the, I can never get this lid to go on straight. I may have to mess with that afterwards here. I'll set that aside. Then I like to go ahead and go in and add just a tiny little bit of the black soot in the trees to just give a little bit of shadowing. So you can either take your dauber or your little stencil brush here and just brush a little bit of the black soot in between your misty areas, and that just adds again a little bit more of a mystery look to it. All right, and I think that's looking pretty much the way I want it to look. Now, my final thing that I like to do when I am creating these cards is I like to put a little frame around it. It's kind of like a just little distressed look of a frame, and it kind of draws the eye in, and then it just gives it that finished look to me. And with that, I will go ahead and take my dauber and the black soot, and I'm just going to start going around the edges in little circular motions, and just add that little bit of a frame and distress look. All right, and so now we are ready to put the card together. Now, if you would like to, it's up to you. I'm going to probably go ahead and go do it. We'll step away from the camera and go do it real quickly. Is with the pan pastel, I like to sometimes set it, so you can either use hairspray or like the Krylon matte finish that keeps it from smearing or wiping off. So I am going to go ahead and take this off camera, and I'll come back and we will mount the card. Okay, so I just did a light mist of a hairspray on top of that, and now I'm going to go ahead and put the card together. So what we will start out with, and you can use glue or you can use the adhesive running tape. I like to use that because it just seems to go quicker, especially when I'm demonstrating. So we're just going to take the tape, run it along the edges, and mount it onto our white piece of cardstock. Get it centered and lined up there. And then we'll mount it to the card base. For me, I was looking this. I got this a little crooked when I folded it. I was hoping that I had a nice deep purple, but I didn't have the right purple that I really liked, wanted to use for this particular card. But I think the navy blue just pulls out a little bit of that chip sapphire. So that is what I went ahead and went with. I don't know about you, but I have a hard time finding the right shades of purple sometime on cardstock. There's many different colors, but some of them just never seem to be the exact one that I'm looking for. All right. And mount that onto our card base. And there we have our finished card. Thank you so much for watching my video tutorial today. I love making this Halloween card, and I hope that you do too. Be sure to check out more tutorials on the design team page at delbellosdesigns.com. Have a great day.